This is KVUE News Night Beat.
So for me, this issue is very personal. It's an attack on me, on my family, on my community.
A debate that's personal for some in the legislature over the so-called Sanctuary Cities bill. We're tracking the vote in the House tonight. The search continues for a missing Austin police officer. And a one-of-a-kind experience being built in downtown Austin.
So members, if we're not patting you on the back today, and we don't want to be very friendly, I think you know why. Because this feels like a dark day in the House.
Moments ago, House members approved a controversial amendment to the bill that puts an end to so-called sanctuary cities. It allows all local peace officers in the state to ask about the immigration status of anyone who's been detained. Previously, the bill would have officers ask the status only after a subject was under arrest. The amendment passed 81 to 64. And while the full bill is expected to pass along party lines, a strong show of opponents are making their voices heard at the Capitol tonight. KVUE's Michael Perchik was there and joins us live from the Capitol with more. Michael?
KVUE protesters said that their presence wasn't just about tonight, it was about making it clear to lawmakers that they're ready to fight moving forward. Chants echoing throughout the Capitol. Protesters taking turns at the mic, speaking, singing, chanting. Their opposition to Senate Bill 4. The legislation would mandate local law enforcement to comply with all ICE detainer requests, essentially banning so-called sanctuary cities. Supporters say it's about enforcing laws, but opponents like high schooler Sylvia Zuvieta Rodriguez believe it oversteps its boundaries.
I understand the fear the immigrant community has. I grew up fearing my parents' deportation.
She says that fear became reality when her father was deported 5 years ago.
It's important for me to fight for the families that are on that line. They feel that fear.
The rally making its way upstairs from Rotunda to right outside the House gallery, protesters making sure their voice is being heard. Neil Hernandez is part of UT LULAC, a group that represents the Hispanic community. He said even if passed, they'll keep making their voice heard.
It's not just a legal fight, it's a spiritual fight, and it's going to take our whole community, everybody of all backgrounds to unite and to overcome this hateful legislation.
He took specific issue with the campus provision, which he feels will make undocumented students uncomfortable. Austin City Councilmember Greg Casar spoke at this evening's rally. He told me he feels this bill targets and scapegoats the immigrant community for the sake of political expediency, all while jeopardizing everyone. Now, Governor Greg Abbott has been an outspoken supporter of Senate Bill 4, tweeting, quote, "Releasing dangerous criminal aliens back on the street after ICE detainer is requested is irresponsible." Live from the Capitol, I'm Michael Perchik, KVUE News Night Beat.
Thank you, Michael, and we'll be tracking the bill's progress into the night. Tune in to KVUE News Daybreak starting at 4:30 for the latest once that vote is complete. Now let's turn to the Night Beat's Jason Puckett, who's tracking the search for a missing Austin police officer. Jason, what's the latest?
Well, Quita, we still don't know the name of the officer, but we know that officials near the Texas-Mexico border are still searching for him after his car was found this morning at Lake Amistad. Now, that's in Valverde County. The lake literally runs along the U.S.-Mexico border. Austin police were first told the officer was in emotional distress yesterday. That's when family and fellow officers realized they couldn't find him anywhere. A statewide alert was put out on his vehicle leading to its discovery at the border this morning. And I did have a chance to speak with the Valverde County Sheriff's Department just a short bit ago. They are handling the search at the border and say that tonight they're still in the same situation. They have the officer's car, but very little else. For now, here in the newsroom, I'm Jason Puckett, KVUE News Night Beat.
Thank you, Jason. And an update on a story that horrified parents across Central Texas. The State Dental Board has closed its investigation into the death of 14-month-old Daisy Lynn Torres. She passed away during a procedure that included root canals and cavity fillings at Austin Children's Dentistry last year. We're told the dentist involved in her case, Dr. Michael Melanson, will not be punished. That's according to his attorney. He says the State Dental Board found no findings of fault against Dr. Melanson. And just to note, the Dental Board itself would not confirm this development. They say their investigations are all confidential. The board did not address the anesthesiologist who was involved in this procedure. Travis County prosecutors are presenting a confrontation between a middle school student and an Austin ISD police officer to a grand jury for possible prosecution. The incident happened last fall and was caught on camera. It involves an 8th grader at Bedichek Middle School and a former AISD officer, Christopher Penaloza. The student was reportedly removed from class by school staff. Officer Penaloza was called to the scene. The two had a confrontation which ended with both of them falling to the floor. AISD Police Chief Eric Mendez is the one who flagged the case for prosecutors. Officer Penaloza is no longer with AISD Police. He'd already given his notice at the time of this incident.
Windy and hot this afternoon. We made it back into the low 90s here in central Texas, but take a look at South Texas. As hot as 104 this afternoon at Brownsville, 99 at Corpus Christi. Several spots along and east of the interstate in the low 90s here in central Texas. Temperatures now cooling with this nice northerly wind into the 60s this evening, headed into the 50s by morning. A little cooler tomorrow afternoon, but we're back up to 90 by Friday. The big story over the next couple of days, thunderstorm chances for parts of the weekend, some of which Saturday night could be on the strong side. Much more on that just a few minutes away.
We'll check in with you in a bit. Thanks, Albert. And in case you missed it, here's a quick takeaway from President Donald Trump's plan for tax reform. For corporations, the cut would be tremendous, from a 35% tax rate down to 15%. For individuals, President Trump wants to reduce the number of tax brackets from 7 to 3. 10, 25, and 35%. The plan also calls for doubling the standard deduction. For a married couple, that means no taxes on the first $24,000 of your earnings. In return, most itemized deductions would be eliminated. The estate tax and the alternative minimum tax would be repealed. The White House says it's moving as quickly as possible with the goal of getting all of this done this year. But there are concerns about what this plan would do to the deficit. It's called lunch shaming, and lawmakers in the Lone Star State are trying to stop it. A bill going through the legislature tomorrow requires all school districts to give students with unpaid lunch accounts a 2-week grace period complete with hot meals. But we wanted to know how your child's school district handles the issue right now. The Night Beat's Tina Shively has been digging into this issue all day, and she joins us now with a breakdown.
That's right, Quita. I reached out to 9 area school districts, and none who responded say they take food away from a child who cannot pay in front of his or her peers, a practice, as you mentioned, known as lunch shaming. All say that once a student's balance reaches 0, they do have a grace period of differing lengths. After that grace period, an alternative meal is offered. Some districts, like Del Valle, continue to offer hot lunch. Others offer a cheese sandwich or a peanut butter and jelly or a salad, as they do in Austin. Now, in some districts, the age of the student determines exactly how their case is handled. In Pflugerville, once their account is empty, secondary students can get $6 in lunch credit, elementary students $5. In San Marcos, letters are sent home to elementary parents after that grace period. Secondary students are warned of their negative balance on the lunch line. Now, in addition to the steps taken at the state legislature, the federal government is also aiming to end the lunch shaming procedure, a USDA policy that requires all districts to write down their policies and distribute them to parents goes into effect on July 1st. And you can read the policies from the districts that responded to us in full on our website, KVUE.com.
Good information to know. Thank you, Tina. A North Texas teacher says he saw lunch shaming happen right in front of him. A cafeteria worker said a 4-year-old girl had no money on her card.
She reached down, picked up her tray, took the milk off the tray, dumped the food, and sent the child away crying. And my jaw dropped. It felt like I'd gotten kicked in the gut.
It turns out at least 4 of the largest school districts in North Texas have a practice of shaming students who can't pay.